All right. Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Juan Carlos Lopez. I am the Director of Teaching and Learning for the Maple League of Universities, and I'm coming to you from Mi'kma'ki, the unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. I say these words as my commitment to listen and listen and listen. A very dear colleague of mine says, once you are done listening, go back and listen and listen and listen again. I want to listen to learn the truth. I want to learn what had happened, what still happens in these lands, and with that knowledge, move towards decolonization and reconciliation according to the recommendations of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. I would also like to acknowledge that these lands I'm coming to you from have received people of African descent in several waves. The recorded story goes more than 400 years, and that first person, Da Costa, that came actually came as a translator between the colonizers as the Mi'kmaq. So that story in itself is very rich because it means that there had to be contact for that person to be able to translate. So again, I say these words as my commitment to listen and listen and listen and learn and move towards a better future for everyone. And I say those words also in my positionality as an immigrant and a settler in these lands. So again, thank you, everyone. It is for me a pleasure to have our colleagues join us today. So today I'm gonna do a very short introduction and hand it to them because they will be doing all the work. But I just want to mention a little bit. So we have Loai Jabre, who is an assistant professor in Mount Allison University. He will be part of the Maple League, and he will be hosting his other two colleagues, Brent Robichaud, an assistant professor in UPI, and Emily Chase, who's also an assistant professor at Winnipeg University. Now, the reason why these three people came together is that actually they all went to school here at Acadia University. And I actually met Loai and Brent on my first year when I came to teach here. And we worked together. We were part of the same teaching team. We taught the introductory biology labs. And I actually remember them from the day that I came for my job interview. I remember them, I remember meeting them, and I remember answering their questions, their probing questions, by the way. And then they came and worked with me. We worked together, and for me, and I don't know if they realize that, but I told them recently. I think I told Brent that it was actually very important for me to work with them because they had knowledge I didn't have. They have the institutional knowledge, and they shared that with me. So they made my work and my initial teaching job here very easy and smooth. And Emily came probably a year later, and she came also to be a part of the teaching team in the introductory biology labs, and we work together. We work together as colleagues. So when I say, I'm very happy to have these colleagues. They are my colleagues, and I'm really happy to see them in the same space. And with that, I'm gonna hand it to Loai. Loai, please take it away and do your thing.
Okay, thank you for the lovely introduction, Juan Carlos. Yeah, welcome everybody. So this is quite an informal session, an informal chat. So please feel free to put your hands up if you have any questions, or just open your mic and ask any questions. Engage in any of the conversations or discussions at your will. Otherwise, we're going to be chatting amongst each other, amongst ourselves, Emily, Brent, and I, talking about our experiences in academia and in undergraduate, and that led us to where we are today. Before we get talking about the questions, I just want to take a minute so we can introduce ourselves properly to you, so you know who we are. Just trying to share my screen. Okay. Can you see my PowerPoint here?
We can.
Okay. Is it full screen?
No, it's like a
Okay.
just normal view, but
It's my
that's probably okay.
first time using Zoom.
Oh,
Okay.
there
Is
you
it?
go.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. So I'll take a minute to introduce myself. So I always tell myself that I have no business being in academia. I never thought in a million years I would end up in academia. And that's because where I grew up in Lebanon, academia was not a career option that I even thought of or anybody thought of or discussed. I was lucky to attend Acadia University for my undergrad, and then I ended up doing a couple of projects before doing a master's in engineering. Actually, one of the projects was a master's degree that I started at Acadia and ended up not finishing. And this master's degree was on insect electrophysiology. And then I finished my master's at Dalhousie in engineering, and I ended up also loving biology so much that I did a PhD in biology, looking at marine microbes around Antarctica specifically. And then this led me to a postdoc at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution in the US, where I continued work on marine biogeochemistry and chemistry and biology. And I should also mention that along this kind of non-linear path, I never knew that I would end up doing marine microbiology at any point in my life. At one point, I was really stoked about insects and I wanted to study insects for the rest of my life. At another point, I wanted to be an engineer. At other points, I wanted to be a chef when I worked as a cook. So this non-linear path, I think, is very common in academic paths. Today, I'm an assistant professor of microbiology at Mount Allison University, like Juan Carlos said, and my lab studies marine microbes at various scales. So I look at the molecular processes that influence how marine microbes function at a fundamental level and move up the scale to understand how these microbial processes and the molecular processes within the microbes influence large-scale ocean processes. Please reach out to me if you have any questions about the work I do, if you're interested in hearing more, and I'm more than happy to chat about it. Okay, and I'll take it over to Brent. So Brent and I did our undergrads at Acadia, and I knew Brent during my undergrad years.
Yeah, thanks, Loai. So, as Loai said, I I did my undergrad and my master's at Acadia, and then I did my PhD at Dal, overlapping with Loai actually quite a bit. Um, yeah, I also didn't really think I was going to be a prof starting out. I definitely spent most of my undergrad thinking I was going to be a high school science teacher until like third year, and then I did one research project, and I think that pretty much changed everything for me and sticking with research and doing microbes. So yeah, now I'm an assistant prof at UPEI, and I study environmental microbiology specifically. So I research things like monitoring microbes in coastal environments. So that includes like viruses, plankton. I really like to dive deeper into sort of what are the dominant microbes that are there. How do we figure out what their ecologies are more specifically? What are their genomes that they have? What are they capable of? And I really focus all of this sort of on the carbon and nitrogen cycle because those are really essential for all life on Earth, especially in the ocean where microbes are really controlling those cycles for the most part. And I like to tell people, right, like in the ocean, there are no trees. It's the microbes that are doing the photosynthesis for the most part.
Mhm.
And also like in the ocean, that's where the nitrogen is coming from the microbes. It's not like on land where we have like fertilizers that we're putting on our garden. So it's not the same idea here. So in the ocean, really the microbes are controlling all of this. Um, yeah, so maybe you can just go to the next slide. Yeah, so this just kind of gives you an idea. Like largely what we do is process water for environmental DNA. So we go out, we sample water either on a ship or you can see in the bottom. Sometimes we just go to like a dock, scoop up some water, and we try to figure out what's in there. I mean, that's really the essence of it. Like, how can we understand the microbial life that's going on in our seawater that's around us, right? Yeah, so if you're interested in these topics, you can contact me. My info is there. Yeah, maybe Emily, I think, is the slides.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Brent. So I'm here for similar reasons as Loy and Brent, of course, working on microbes and also a recent assistant professor. But I'm here at the University of Winnipeg in Manitoba. And I thought I would just kind of show some pictures so you had something to look at while I ramble a little bit. So I also had a not um very streamlined path to getting to microbiology, aquatic microbiology. And I consider myself now not just a microbiologist, but also a phycologist and a virologist. So I kind of work at the intersection of microalgae and how they interact with viruses to kind of give a bigger picture of what's going on in our aquatic environments. And that's also very similar to what Brent just described when it comes to methodology. So I'm also going out and sampling sort of thing. I will say, so my history is that I did my undergraduate degree primarily at Acadia University, sprinkled in a couple of years from Dalhousie actually, and completed my honors research through Acadia. At that point in time, I was pretty determined to be in academia and to be a professor. So even though I was very stubborn about it and determined to do that, I still kind of took a non-traditional approach, and it took me an extra year to finish my undergrad because I came back to do like a research year. And then I continued on to do my master's at Acadia, working on bivalves actually. So I will acknowledge when I was doing my undergraduate research, I was primarily focused on plant physiology, actually. So very different from what I'm doing today, kind of like what Loy was talking about. But it actually helped me in the end because as we know plants photosynthesize, and now I work on microbiology. So there's a really nice connection there. And then when I moved on to my master's, I was actually working on bivalve evolution, which you probably think is very, very different than phycology and virology again. But in fact, there is a really nice link because evolution is a very prominent topic in microbiology, and especially in environmental microbiology. You have to understand how things evolve, especially between hosts and viruses. So this really gave me a solid foundation for the work that I do today. So after that, I conducted a PhD in the south of France at Aix-Marseille University. And there, finally, I was kind of getting into my core, at my heart interest, because I always loved small things. I always loved microbiology. And so I started working finally on microalgal viruses there. And after my PhD, I went to the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, to complete a postdoctoral contract. So I did that for about 3 years under Dr. Stephen Wilhelm, and this was a phenomenal opportunity. If you have a chance to conduct research abroad, and if you have the means to, and you're able to leave Canada, it's a fantastic experience. And I did that because I wanted to go out and kind of collect different skills and bring them back. So Loy, can you switch to the final slide there? I just like to include this because we're probably going to talk a little bit about liberal arts and a broader education before we really got in deeply to research and science. And why not include some art here that I did myself? I really strongly emphasize that creativity is important in science, and so I like to do this sort of thing to try to communicate that viruses are everywhere. They're in our everyday lives, everywhere we go. They interact with every organism that we interact with. And so I just kind of want to leave this bigger perspective from my work.
Cool. This is incredible art.
Thank you.
Oh, I don't want to close the slide anymore, but I have to.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, cool. Thank you both for the introductions. I'm looking at the people in the room, and I recognize a lot of you, and I also recognize a lot of early career people, mid or late career people, people who are in science and not in science. So this is fantastic. Before we get going with our conversation, I want to open up the floor to anybody who has any questions about anything we just said or anything in general along these topics. Okay. Okay, so maybe we'll begin with one question. I'll ask it to both Emily and Brent, and anybody also is welcome to chime in. First question I have is reflecting back on your liberal arts education. What aspects of that liberal arts education influenced your scientific thinking and your the way you think about science today?
I can go first if you'd like, Brent.
Sure.
So I definitely just kind of outlined how I gathered skills along the way. And so this is something important to think about when you're at a smaller university, liberal arts university, you're kind of exposed to a very specific set of different things because you're not going to a huge microbiology department, you're going to a department of biology. And so it kind of becomes like a village to raise a child, and you take what opportunities you can get. And in fact, the way to get to a specific topic, if you're interested in being a researcher on aquatic viruses, for example, is not to necessarily go and find an aquatic virus lab, but to find different skill sets amongst different researchers. So to be a virologist, I needed bioinformatics. So I spent time with our resident, our champion at Acadia, Trevor Avery, and he really, really laid a solid foundation for me. And so it's really just about finding skills, and those skills are there at a liberal arts college. You don't need to go to a microbiology department to find those.
Mm.
Hmm.
Okay. Brent, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I'm just thinking what aspects of your liberal. Yeah, so I mean, I'm thinking for me, like when I think back, I did a biology major and then I did a double minor in psychology and sociology. And I think looking back, that is what really shaped me for a lot of it is like I had so many classes that were based on like human behavior and working with others, in addition to all my biology classes. And I think to me, that really shaped how I think about biology in terms of understanding that it is like a human endeavor. So I'm not thinking about just what I'm
Mm.
doing in the lab, but I'm also thinking about like who is influencing, who's doing the research, how the human is engaging with that process a lot. So I mean, I'm thinking like when I teach my classes, I often talk a lot about like the history of how we got to where we are in terms of these
Mhm.
methods. And I try to make those connections for the students because I think we need to think about like how did we do the science before? How are we doing it now? How are we going to do it better in the future? And all those things are connected and it's connected to
Mm.
how the human is engaging with the scientific method. So it's not just about doing the science, about how we do the
Mhm.
science, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
So I mean that I think really shaped me. And had I gone to a bigger school where I was like very specialized in one topic, like maybe I wouldn't have gotten all those psychology classes or sociology classes and I would have maybe just taken microbiology classes. I may not have
Mhm.
even like learned history of biology classes, right? Like we
Mhm.
did, I think you probably also did like intellectual origins at
Mhm.
Acadia where we learned just about science overall and the scientists that do that.
Mhm.
Like had I been at a bigger school, maybe I wouldn't have taken a history of biology type class.
Mhm.
And, so I think yeah, at a liberal arts school, that really shaped me. I think being able to take stuff outside biology.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just to add a tiny bit to that, I also took philosophy courses,
Okay.
and I ended up there because of my degree, and it's not
Mhm.
something I had planned on or thought about beforehand. But being in a
Mhm.
philosophy class, we did a lot of debates and
Mhm.
learned how to
Mhm.
talk to each other. And when we're kind of just narrowed into a science course and what is debating in science, you are kind of, yeah, losing the
Mhm.
human aspect. And we're scientists, we're not working in a vacuum. We
Mhm.
typically hope that our work can be brought out into the public, communicated to the public, and be meaningful. So if you don't know how to talk to people
Mhm.
Mhm.
and make an argument, yeah, so it's a really nice skill to gain
Mhm.
from those courses.
Hmm. Yeah, one thing I always think about with the liberal arts education, my experience at Acadia and smaller schools in general is I think I got just as much out of the non-science classes than I did
Mhm.
from the science classes, if not more. The science you can always learn and relearn, but some of the other classes that you took or the projects that you did with smaller classes and classmates really give you some skills that you can't gain from a textbook or from learning material from a science class.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so I guess this takes me to the next question is how we're do our the work that we do is very interdisciplinary. So we do a lot of biology and chemistry and ocean science and
Mhm.
whatnot. And how do you feel the liberal arts education particularly prepared you for what you do now, or did it? So
Mhm.
on the same vein, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I was thinking about this. I think the liberal arts education gave me the opportunity to become a generalist before I became a specialist.
Mm.
And I think at the end of the day, that helped not only shape, I guess, how I approach the specialist parts, but so it's like I learned a little bit about a lot of things, and then I was able to engage with those topics when I came across them again. So that made me sort of a generalist. But I think also it gave me the mindset that it's okay to kind of learn new things, and it's okay to be uncomfortable when I reach those new things because I do have a little bit of knowledge about them, right? So yeah, again, like had I just gone to a bigger school, I probably would have been more of a specialist. I probably wouldn't have been a generalist to
Hmm.
begin with, and
Hmm.
then I think I would have maybe been less I would have been more uncomfortable getting outside my wheelhouse in terms of subjects that I was researching, probably. I'm thinking. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to also acknowledge one aspect of a liberal arts education at a smaller University of Acadia. We always talk about smaller class sizes, and that's kind of where we stop at that statement. You can understand that implies that you probably know your professor's name, whereas at Dalhousie, sometimes people actually are just sitting there and they're really glazed over because they're, amongst 300 students. But actually, what that translates to is opportunities. So it's not just that you might be able to have one-on-one meetings with your prof more easily or be able to ask more questions directly after class type thing. It's that they present opportunities to you and you make connections. And really specifically in science, this is critical. Learning to collaborate early on, working with a lot of different people with different skill sets, a lot of times my opportunities just came up by walking around in the halls or making an effort with different profs, and they really recognize you and learn your name, and that's really a big step. Now that I'm on the other side of things, just knowing a student's name in a smaller classroom really helps make a connection.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. So yeah, I guess the common theme here is there's a lot of community minded aspect to all of this learning. You're learning as part of a community, and liberal arts and small universities make that a little bit easier to do. And Emily, I know some of the work you do is also kind of community based, community centered science. Has the liberal education that you've had influenced this type of work that you do now too?
Mm. Yeah, so maybe I'll kind of just talk about firstly how it's very community orientated science. So I am lucky enough to live very close to Lake Winnipeg, and so this is one of the reasons why I actually moved here. I can drive 40 minutes north, and there's my sample site. And if you don't know, a lot of times if you're an aquatic microbiologist, your study sites are a flight away, sometimes in different countries, sometimes the other side of Canada, and you don't always have local opportunities for sampling. And so this is very convenient from a research standpoint, but it also means I'm immersed in an area that cares about my study site. Lake Winnipeg is like the 10th largest freshwater lake in the world. It houses tons and tons of fish industries. There's lots of money coming out of fishing that happens in Lake Winnipeg, and these are local fishermen. So from an economic standpoint, people really care about Lake Winnipeg. From a recreational standpoint, people really care about Lake Winnipeg. There's lots of cottages along it. There's a whole kind of beach area with a little town, and there's a lot of festivals and events that happen there, and the lake's right beside them. So it's kind of a culturally significant part of Manitoba, actually. And in Manitoba, most of the population is concentrated around Winnipeg and therefore close to the lake. And then we also have a lot of traditional indigenous communities around the lake, and it's a very important resource for them as well. Um, and so this is just inherently a community project. Whatever anybody is doing for research and science on Lake Winnipeg is a community project. And so there's a lot of people who care about what I'm doing and the results. So it's not just doing science in a vacuum, but also being able to translate that to the community and talk to people who care. And sometimes at the core of that, it's not necessarily showcasing my exact research results, what I've published, but informing them on what type of algae are there. Are they harmful? Should you swim or not? How to interpret these announcements that are made by the provincial government on whether you should interact with the lake or not, or the health of the lake, or even just what viruses are. And really having a liberal arts education and learning to communicate with people in different courses from different perspectives really enhanced this for me and has helped me connect with the locals here who love Lake Winnipeg. I can't stress, like, I didn't realize, I knew it was important on paper. Like everything I said is like very objective, but actually when you come here, they love Lake Winnipeg so much, and they always have stories about how they've interacted with the lake, fishing on it. People ice fish too. We like winter doesn't end in Winnipeg. Like it won't end, I think, until May actually, and the ice stays really until like the start of May. So people are out on there enjoying the lake all times of year, really, and they're concerned about the health of the lake. They're working towards putting designating the lake as a person, so it has human rights, so we can better protect the health of the lake. And really, without this sort of communication and caring about these things and a liberal arts background, I wouldn't be as prepared for this sort of undertaking. So yeah, definitely community is so important in research, and it's a good skill to have to be able to see different perspectives and just to be able to talk with people, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm just thinking in terms of like the community centered science, I've sort of been thinking about it also in terms of like the research projects we do in our labs also fundamentally are training the next generation of scientists who are going to perform science. And I think we need to move to this model of community-centered science. So, I mean, I've been trying to emphasize to my students that, like, yes, we all have our research projects, they're connected to the community, but also we are working as a team on these things. So, like you say, we shouldn't be siloed. Like, we need to work together in our lab. And I'm just thinking back to my liberal arts education days in undergrad. I think we experienced this when Emily and I were in the same lab. Like, we were often working on projects that were other students, other people, other interest groups, right? So it's like we were going outside of our silos to do this. So I mean, I think that really influenced me, that it's like, yes, we have our individual projects, but we're working as a team collectively to address these research goals. Yeah, so I think tying it also like how we're going to educate the students, I think that's where the liberal arts education, I think the liberal arts model lends itself well to that in terms of students getting access to different research that's going on around them and making the connections to the community through those various projects that aren't just their own. It's like what other people are working on. Yeah.
Yeah, you really make such a good point, because those collaborations and connections we established early on, especially between different labs, were really necessary at a place like Acadia, because your lab itself wouldn't necessarily, they're typically not huge. So your skill set could probably benefit somebody in an entirely different lab doing an entirely different research project, different subject, but the same tools that need to be applied. And this is something we developed at Acadia, and I carried this through my PhD. I carried this through my postdoc, and I would argue this is one of the main reasons why I ended up with a publication record that helped support me in getting an assistant professor role, for sure.
Yeah, I think also from maybe from a different angle too, for this community-centered science, or I guess similar angle that Brent was talking about. I did my undergrad in a liberal arts university, and then I went to some larger institutions after for PhD and postdoc. And I've seen firsthand within the same lab group where people were hiding like data from each other in the fear that somebody was going to succeed and somebody wasn't. And there was a lot of there was that culture of competition in some of the bigger places. And now that I'm back at a more liberal arts school, that whole mindset is completely not even relevant here. And it's amazing where you can just walk into somebody's office or chat with somebody and have these different project ideas. And you can talk to somebody in arts or philosophy and try to combine your science ideas with somebody in the arts. And this is something that I'm actively working on now. And I feel like this is something that is a very strong suit of a liberal arts institution that's very hard to find or construct at a larger place. So Emily, you mentioned something about that kind of community-minded work helped you get a publication record, and then which also helped you get this job. And since we only have about 30 minutes left, I think there's some interest in talking about how do you go from an undergrad to doing your PhD to a postdoc and then getting the job. Um, so what was that transition process like for you both, and what advice would you give people in that stage of their career? Um, yeah.
Do you mind if I go first, Brent?
Go for it.
This is a really individualized thing. It
Mhm,
really
mhm,
depends on who you are as a person. And I have always been, like I said earlier, just so stubborn. Like
mhm,
just keep moving forward. And so really if I could go back in time and tell myself anything, it would just be keep being stubborn, really. I wasn't always confident, so sometimes I needed some reassurance, and it really helped to be in the Acadia kind of research atmosphere for that. But oh, somebody says persistent, not stubborn. This is true. I just sometimes like to
Mm.
take negative words and try to force
mhm.
them to be a little bit positive, just in case if somebody told you you're stubborn in the past, you can feel a little bit better
Positive, yeah.
about it. Yeah. But yeah, I was very persistent and very determined, and I knew that if I ended up in a different role outside academia, I could be happy in my life. You can't make work and your education the central focus of your life, of course, but you can dedicate a lot of time to it.
Mhm,
And so, really, my advice would be take those opportunities, like we talked about a little bit before, and talk to people. Ask them, what skills early on in your education, even when you're in your first year or your first class, ask professors what skills they look for in students to conduct research in their lab. Professors will be more than happy to give you that information, and they'll be very happy that you're interested in it already. It's never too soon to start. I applied to work at Agra Canada in the first semester of my first year, and I started working there in Kentville in November. I was going on the bus for an hour to go work 2 hours to come back. So it would be 4 hours out of my time, which is a lot when you're a student, when you're taking a full course load. And I'm not saying everybody should do this, because potentially you don't have the capacity to do that because of your living situation, etc. But I was able to, and I really pushed myself to do these things. And getting kind of down further to the end, and when I was doing my postdoc, I just made sure I wasn't afraid to put myself out there. I had colleagues who were also in a postdoctoral role asking me how I have the confidence to apply for a position. How do I handle rejection or not hearing back or anything? I just pushed forward. Like, I really think this is
mhm,
a good piece of advice to give people. A rejection or hearing back is not the end of the world. You will continue on, like life will continue. Just be persistent, be as confident as you can. I
mhm,
mean, it's cliche, fake it till you make it. Just go.
mhm,
But
mhm,
also lean on people, because your mentors have gone through this application experience. And for me personally, it was really cool to be able to talk to peers in the same situation, and being able to talk to Brent throughout my entire academic career, all of my schooling, starting from my master's. Like, Brent has been
mhm,
a great resource and a great friend to me. And I mean, we established this friendship, and we established ourselves as colleagues at a smaller university in Don Stewart's lab. And
mhm,
yeah, so
mhm.
yeah, it was just keep going forward. I know it's very simple, but it really helped me for sure.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things
Oh,
that Emily really, oh, do we have a question?
yeah, I think Eliana has
Yeah.
a question.
Hello, thank you. I'm not going to turn my camera on because I'm super sick and I look super sick too. So,
Okay.
just two things. I am loving your presentation so much. Emily and Brent, you don't know me, but I've been following your career since a long time ago because Juan Carlos
Okay.
has been keeping me up with it, and
Mhm.
I am
Cool.
so much in awe with you. You are amazing, and I'm so happy to know that you are teaching now, and it gives me so much hope for the future.
Mhm.
You are like I'm just
Well,
listening to
thanks.
you, and I am just so happy and
Mm.
Mhm.
so pleased. And I believe I was the one that said that just persistent, not stubborn. Stubbornness is
No, I
also good,
appreciate
right?
that. I
Yeah,
really do.
yeah. No, stubbornness is also good, but
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank
um,
you.
yeah. And you're saying all of these things about just being persistent and keep going. And that's amazing. And one of the things, and talking to your mentors and tutors about what skills do you need, one thing that I'm doing now with my own students is actually telling them these are the
Mhm.
skills that you're learning in
Mhm.
class. Besides the actual technical skills that I'm giving you, these are the other things that you're learning. Like we're doing this, and you're learning
Mhm.
communication. And we're also doing this, and you are learning how to work in teams. And so I
Mhm.
tell them because sometimes they're a little bit afraid of asking and going. And you
Yeah,
are
they
super
are.
brave, and so you also teach them those things that they need to do. Like, okay,
Mhm.
I'm being very direct. I'm telling you, this is what you need, and this is what you're doing, and this is why we're doing it. And
Mhm.
I don't know if they're paying attention or not, but I still tell them.
Mhm.
And
It's a
tell,
good point. Yeah,
yeah,
it's a very good point.
yeah, and tell them your stories because they will learn
Mhm.
from those stories. What we've heard from students so far is that tell them, oh, I have a PhD and I know this and that doesn't work. And you're so
Mhm.
personable. Tell them your own stories. Tell them this is what I
Mhm.
did as a
Mhm.
human being, because
Mhm.
Mhm.
that is what they hear. That's what
Mhm.
they will really, really learn
Yeah.
from you.
And they
Mhm.
appreciate
Mhm.
it. They
Yeah,
really appreciate those
Yeah.
connections. Yeah,
yeah.
I am continuing to try to implement exactly what you're saying now. And
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
remember I spent a bit of time in one of my courses, maybe just 10, 15 minutes to talk about how to
Mhm.
do research as an undergrad. And most of them don't know
Mhm.
anything. So a lot of
Mhm.
times it's just by chance that we learn those paths,
Yeah.
and they don't know what resources are there, like student funding, etc., and how to send an email to a
Mhm.
prof, make a connection. So, wait, yeah,
Mhm.
what you're saying is really, I really agree with that for
Yeah,
sure.
'cause that's this
Mhm.
phrase that somebody told me one day. It's so good, like you don't know what you don't know. So they won't know what to
Yeah,
ask, right?
yeah, they don't know.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mhm.
they
it's
can come and
true.
say, what do I need to do for this? Because they don't even know that this exists, right?
Mm-hmm.
What
Mhm.
do I
Mm-hmm.
know? What do I need to know to get published? They don't even know that they need to get published. So
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
yeah, sharing your
Mhm.
stories
Mhm.
as much as you feel comfortable to do so
Mm-hmm.
is a great way to help. And you are doing
Mhm.
so many amazing things. You must be so proud of yourself.
Oh,
Thank you. I will
Yeah, no,
definitely
thank you.
integrate more of what you
Yeah,
said.
yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think one of the things that you said was like I'm teaching you concepts and then I'm also teaching you other things here that are not necessarily exactly that thing, but you're learning a skill along the way. So when I started to develop my classes last term, something that quickly came to mind as I was developing was them. It was like I want to teach them content, but I also want to teach them some life skills along the way. So for each of my upper year classes now, there's sort of you sign up for my class, you're going to learn, for example, medical microbiology. But the secret life skill that you're going to learn as part of doing that class is actually like reading a lot of material and then like being able to critically analyze it.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to like make that clear to the students that like there's sort of a hidden theme here that we're working on ourselves as well as learning the actual material. So that happens in medical microbiology. I mean, do the students necessarily know this? Maybe not, but that's what they experience, hopefully, by the end of the class. And then, like, I have another class that's molecular research techniques, and then the hidden skill there is that you're really learning time management, right, along the way. And the whole class is designed in such a way, and I can do this, I think, because I am at a liberal arts school where the class is designed that you will learn, hopefully, some time management skills along the way. And I do try to make it that that hidden skill is sort of like the focus of how I've designed the class so that you're not going to learn like a bajillion life skills here. We're trying to develop one quite well. And then, my vision is that if enough profs do that and there's a hidden life skill in all these classes along the way, right, you will have gotten these skills. Because I think sometimes we forget about what our colleagues are teaching them, what are the life skills that they're doing in their classes. And maybe we're only touching on these topics just a little bit, but we need to like narrow in and really help the students with a bigger life skill, and you learn one in each class so that it's a little bit more digestible, I would say.
Mm.
Yeah, so anyway, that's sort of connected, I guess, to your thought of like telling the students what they're learning, but it's more than just the content.
I'm just
Hmm.
going to interject and say
Yeah.
I can confirm Brent does this because he's told me
Okay.
this separately, so he's not making it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the idea of explicitly stating those life skills that you're teaching the students. I never
Mhm.
thought about it until now. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, that's
Yeah. So Juan
that.
Carlos says you can make those hidden skills more explicit to the students. Yeah, I mean, I'm experimenting with that. Like sometimes maybe you like, I don't know, when I've learned some of these life skills from my classes, thinking back to my Acadia days, it wasn't always because the prof told me this. And maybe like had I known that's what they were trying to get out of me, I would have engaged with the thing a little bit
Mm,
differently. Like, I kind of want the students to organically try these skills and learn how to modify themselves a little bit. Because I think, we do live in a world where the students are very keen on, like, how do I get the points? How do I get the
mm,
grade, right? So to me, it's more like, I'm not necessarily going to tell you how to get, how do you exceed expectations in this way? I think this is more for you to discover, and it's not tied to your grades so much. So it's like if you engage with this in this way, you're going to do well and learn this life skill, but you're not going to fail this
mhm.
class if you don't learn this life skill, right? Yeah.
I remember in undergrad, or was it? I forgot when I took this course. It was at Acadia, so it must have been undergrad.
Yeah.
There was an R course. I think Dan Taves taught it,
Hmm.
and it was basically learning how to use R. And I remember being
Hmm.
so frustrated in the beginning and kind of midway through, being like, "I'm not like you're not teaching me how to use R." And then I had a
Mm.
chat with him, and he was like, "The point of this is to learn how to teach yourself to use
Self how to
R."
do them. Yeah.
Yeah, so you don't really learn how to use R, you learn how to get help and how to look for
Yeah.
the help you need
Exactly.
to start coding. So I
Exactly.
think yeah,
Yeah.
kind of that model that he had for that class is
Hmm.
something I think about often. Yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm. Oh
Mm,
yeah, Juan Carlos just indicated R is a statistical package, just in case somebody's not
mm,
Yes.
familiar with
Yes.
it.
Yes.
So I
mhm,
had the same experience
mm,
that I was learning how to teach myself R. And so you gain two
Hmm.
major skills. One is R, which has been very useful specifically, but maybe 10 years down the road, it will be less useful. We don't
mhm,
know. I
Hmm.
mean, Python's very powerful,
Hmm.
but I will always maintain that troubleshooting skill. And
Hmm.
this has gotten me so far. I have so many collaborations just based on my like comfort with troubleshooting because so many people have come to me,
Hmm.
other
Yeah.
students, peers, people I was mentoring specifically because they don't have that skill, and so they would want help with
Hmm.
their work, which is totally fine. But I could troubleshoot stuff I had never done before, so this
Hmm.
was
mhm,
such an amazing skill that it seems like we
Hmm.
both acquired from Acadia.
Hmm.
mhm,
Yeah.
mhm,
Um, I
mm.
just want to circle back. How did we get on this topic? What was it?
Yeah.
It
So we were
was
talking about how we like the preparation we
advice.
did to
Advice.
get to
Yeah.
Oh
this
yeah,
point.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
advice to our
Yeah.
advice to the younger
This
people.
is
Yeah.
important.
So I mean, I'm thinking for me, in terms of advice to undergrads versus grad students versus postdocs, I think my key nuggets of wisdom. So I tell undergrads very much that it's about transferable skills. I think as
Hmm.
many transferable skills as you can get in the early days is going to set you up for later success. So that means like TAing, getting involved with societies, leading things in those societies, making study groups, leading those study groups, like anything that you can do that's about like communication, working with other people, etc. Like that, you need to sand the groundwork for that early, I think. And then when it comes to like grad students, postdocs, I think like Emily said, it's
Mm,
like you've hopefully by then have built your little community of people. And then I think really
Hmm.
the idea is if you want to be successful at getting an academic job, I think it's about not going it alone, right? So you need your allies, you need your friends to make all this happen. And I think, you have to build that groundwork also a little bit earlier, but that's more towards your late undergrad, I think. Um, and then, yeah, because I mean, I think most of the people probably getting prof jobs at the moment, it's like they are working with their peers, they're reading each other's CVs, they're
Hmm.
asking each other questions. Like these people who are getting these jobs have not just done this path by themselves, I think, for the most part, right? And then I think also
Mm-hmm.
that something that I realized during my postdoc was that like once I told the faculty around me that I had gotten an interview, like that they also jump into action, right? Where it's like you can call on them. So like I was doing practice job talks in front of the whole department, right? And they were like saying, well,
Mm-hmm.
questioning me, trying to get me like to answer things that would be at the interview, etc. So like you also can call upon your mentors in that way. And then also something very practical that I tell the grad students is that I would recommend starting to work on your CV early. And I don't say this because I don't necessarily think CV is about a CV is about bean counting what you've done. I view a CV more as like a bit of a vision board. It tells you what you've done. You can really reflect on what has happened in your life. And then you can also sort of imagine what you would like it to be moving forward in order to get the job that you want, right? So it helps shape your path a little bit here. And you can only do that if you started early, right? So yeah, and I definitely did mine early, and I think it helped me definitely shape like, well, where are the holes? Where am I like, what am I doing that I probably want to be doing that I'd like to do? And like maybe here's where I'm excelling because I'm obviously doing a lot of it, right? So yeah, that's my practical advice, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts? Emily's shaking her head, yes, to the CV early, I think. And we would
Mhm.
look at each
For
other's
sure.
CVs, right? We would look at them and
Oh
see,
yeah, I've
right?
seen yours
Yeah.
a few times over the years.
Yeah. Juan Carlos, you have your hand up?
How is it that it's hard for me to unmute? It's like I haven't been
Oh.
in Zoom before. There is one thing that you touched upon a little bit when you were telling your path, but
Yeah.
at your own comfort. And I think Luai said, this was not a path I knew existed. This is not
Mm,
a path that I knew, and I've thought a lot about that because I went abroad for my undergrad. So,
mm,
I was in an unfamiliar territory, but I did have in my
mm,
family, in my growing up, in my though that
mm,
path. I knew the academic path, I knew about
mm,
research, I knew about grad school, I knew about
mm,
all those things. I knew about PhD, I knew about postdocs. I knew all those
mm,
things going in,
mm,
right? And I ended up in that path. And actually, when I decided that I wanted, I was a bit undecided, but then once I decided to do biology, I knew I wanted to do research. I knew exactly. I didn't know the social norms in the school, but I did know that I could go and try to talk to teachers to get
mm,
into their labs. I knew that was. See,
Mm.
I knew a
mm,
lot when I reflect back on that, and
mm,
I had to learn other things, the social norms of the new place and how things work, but I had a lot of knowledge. I recognize now, when I reflect back.
mm,
How was it for you? Did you know about these careers? How did and can you share a little bit about that?
mm,
I did not know at all. I'm coming, just to be transparent, I'm coming from a family where my parents didn't finish high school, actually. But I was a curious kid, so that's how I ended up
mm,
here, actually. I did mention that I worked at the Agri Foods in Kentville, and I was determined to go work there because I was just interested in
mm,
nature a lot, and so I was asking a lot of questions to my parents about things, and they were like, maybe they know at the Agra station. So then I was just determined to go work there,
mm,
and that's how
mm,
I ended up. But I really learned things a little bit later, even though I was doing research. So I think it is really
mm,
important for us now as mentors and profs to put the basic information out there for undergraduate students of how you can connect
mm,
with profs and do research.
mm,
I like to say I'm blissfully naive and curious.
mm,
Sometimes I'm just like, happy doing science and doing the best science I can now. I'm not really
mm,
planning too much ahead. And but for me, that's been quite a positive thing because I'm able to absorb a lot of different experiences and do a lot of different things.
mm,
But at some point, you have to be strategic. And
mm,
when I started my postdoc, one of the first meetings I had with my postdoc advisor, who was phenomenal, he was like, "Okay, your first job here in your postdoc is to get your next job. So how can we make that happen? And then we can worry about your research project." So find the mentors that will support what you need, and don't be afraid to ask for help. And at some point, you have to be strategic, whether that's going into academia or whatever kind of job you want to get into. You need to start planning, and you need to start putting some work into that path. Yeah.
So yeah,
And
fill
I
in that resume,
yeah.
like Brent, or like yeah, Brent said, the vision board. Exactly as you said. Enjoy the experiences, but figure out where you need to fill in too.
And I think another very big point here is, in addition to our shared experiences in liberal arts education, is that we all went abroad for postdocs or some sort of job. And I think that's also very important, not because we get better training or there's better science outside of Canada. In some cases, in certain fields, of course, yeah. But I think going outside of your comfort zone and experiencing something new and meeting new people and experiencing a new way of doing science is pivotal. And you would find that common theme among many academics is that they did end up doing work completely outside of their comfort zone.
And I will say, like, it might seem counterintuitive that a liberal arts education might prepare you for that because it is a smaller community. But in fact, because it's smaller, you have more responsibilities. So you gain an independence. And I mean, if you move to a different country, like there's so many logistical barriers, language barriers, just cultural barriers, and then you have to learn how they do science there. And yeah, if you have the opportunity, for sure, take it. And I know sometimes people say you have to go abroad to conduct research. You don't always have to, but I definitely think being at Acadia really helped me have the responsibilities to jump out of the nest without knowing if I can fly yet.
Yeah, one advice my PhD advisor had was that if you do your master's or if you do like a graduate degree in her lab, she will just not accept you for a full postdoc or something like that. And I think there are some universities have rules that you can't do your entire education at that university to give you that chance to jump and experience something new. So it doesn't have to be going abroad, it's just going somewhere new. Yeah.
And I will say, like, that sometimes it's not possible for people. Maybe they have familial responsibilities. They need to stay close by. So I think definitely as profs, we should be open to individual stories and cases and keep that in mind. But yeah, if the opportunity's there and the means are there, I think it is very helpful.
Well, and I mean, also something that I've been reflecting on lately is the fact that, like, yes, as professors, we do a lot of research, we do a lot of teaching, but also a large part of my daily activities is just like working and managing and talking with other people and putting that all together. And to me, that's not always research, it's not always teaching. And I think having gone abroad and learning other people's perspectives that are broader than just the Canadian view, right? That also taught me like different ways to work with people, I think, and to like problem solve right in the workplace. Yeah, so to me it was not just about going abroad to learning. Yeah, like Emily said, it's about you learn so many different things about different cultures and how people are performing their daily work and how they're doing research. Sure, in terms of techniques, but it's just like being exposed to a greater diversity of perspectives, I think allows you to come back to Canada if you're interested in coming back to Canada or staying wherever you are. I mean, it's just the more perspectives you have experienced, I think allows you to problem solve in different ways, in a better way, I think. Yeah.
So we have a few minutes left, and I see there's a couple of questions in the chat. So I want to maybe take this time to allow people to ask questions and engage in the discussion. The first question Kendra asked, would you like me to read that, or would you like to ask it yourself? Okay, I'll read it. So do you feel a postdoc is almost necessary in a sense if you're wanting to work in academia? Maybe I'll take a quick stab at this and see if you have any thoughts. So depending on what kind of academic path you have, so sometimes there are certain positions that don't require a postdoc. I know, for example, in philosophy, a postdoc is not always necessary. I also know sometimes you can get an academic position without even finishing a PhD in certain fields. In the sciences, a postdoc is almost always required.
I will say, like, there's different ways to be an academic as well. So you might be able to be an instructor with a master's or different level of
Mm.
education. So
Mhm.
academic researcher, most often I do find people have a postdoc and
Mhm.
sometimes two postdocs, but there are definitely people out there who manage to skip being a postdoc, and
Mhm.
that might be beneficial. I will say a postdoc does really, really help you prepare in terms of like being a better mentor. Usually, when
Mhm.
you're a postdoc in a lab, it's often a bigger lab and you'll have trainees under you. You might be solely
Mhm.
responsible effectively for a PhD student or a master's student. You might be their
Mhm.
direct connection to supervising. So it might feel like on paper it's just something you have to go through, but really the skills you get as a postdoc are very useful and
Mhm.
critical, I think.
Yeah. I mean, the
Mhm.
reality is it's a precarious position, but looking back at it, it's probably some of the two funnest years that I had thus far in academia. Postdocs are very enjoyable in many cases, but yes, like they are precarious. And you, like Loi said, I think the key is like as soon as you get the postdoc, you're applying for your next job, right? You know it's going to
Hmm.
end quickly. So it really is about like, yeah, don't see it as like, oh, well, now I have a job for 2 years and I don't have to think about it. No, it's like you start thinking about the next job as soon as you get it, but then you also enjoy the postdoc, right?
Yeah. I will
Yeah.
say something funny. During my postdoc, when I had news that I was going to accept that I had accepted a position here, I told my mentor there, my supervisor, that I had accepted the position and when I would be leaving and stuff. And he was so proud of me, but then his mood changed and he sat back and he was like, enjoy the rest of your postdoc. Like you
Mhm.
have more control over your life as a postdoc. Suddenly, if you become a assistant professor, the
Mhm.
you do similar things, you do research, you mentor, but there's a lot of other responsibilities. So postdoc
Mhm.
is a really nice period of time
Mhm.
in research, like Brent had said.
Mhm.
Does anybody else have any questions or thoughts or comments?
Maybe you could read Stephanie's comment.
Yeah, there's a few comments
Hmm.
here.
I don't mind sharing it too if you want.
Hmm,
Yeah,
of
please.
course.
So, firstly, my name is Stephanie. I wanted to thank you all for your talk today. I'm coming in with the background of I'm currently in my last stage to teach English. So when you guys were talking about the transferable skills and each kind of professor going in and teaching one skill to students and bringing that back, that really resonated with me. And then I just thought the CV, as I commented, the CV as a vision board idea was such an interesting way to kind of frame it, to kind of maybe like for those that maybe have like a bit of a barrier for CVs or just like aren't sure what they want to do. I thought that was just an interesting take to look at it.
Mm.
Mm.
Mhm. Yeah. And I mean, I think also like getting access to more CVs and seeing them and just thinking about things, that's something we don't often see is like we've all gotten, there are many professors, but we don't necessarily know all their CVs. We don't see all of it. We only see a piece of it that gets potentially advertised or posted. But I mean, I know many professors that would probably willingly share their CVs with people who are applying for jobs, right? Like,
Hmm.
so like a lot of this information it's not hidden purposefully. It just is just kind of secret, I guess, but it's not. So, like, I mean, it's part of the community. You build a community, you like ask for this stuff. I mean, you develop that
Hmm.
comfort that you can ask people for this information and they're willing to give it to you. Um, yeah. So, I mean, that's part
Yeah.
of it. I like the idea of a CV as a vision board. I've treated it that way and definitely looked at other people's and because I see it also like when I see that's like their vision board. What did they have on their vision board that like shaped their ability to get where they were or not, or like whatnot? So yeah,
Mm.
it's all tied together.
Mm.
Yeah. Mm.
Cool. We have 1 minute left. Juan Carlos, do you want to do the closing? I don't know what you want to do.
Yes, so we we do we just want to name that there is a minute left, in case you have to move to your next meeting and all that, and I will be
Mhm.
closing the call. I just want to say that I did work with the three of you. We worked together. We worked uh, in a teaching team, and I can see in your talk what I saw working with you. You are
Mhm.
all very curious uh, and extremely collaborative and you did have at different stages that vision that brought you to where you are right now. I did benefit greatly from working with the three of you. I learned lots, and it was a wonderful experience. And I can see now how you are doing that in the places where you are working. So this is an incredible opportunity for me to share with you and to listen to where you are at. So thank you very much. One thing we usually do, and you please can do it at your own comfort, is try to wave goodbye at the speakers. We haven't done this in a while. I forgot about it. So, but if you can turn on your camera and just wave, and we will send them off, and then I'll stop my recording. But thank you very much. Yeah, thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you.
Thank you for joining us, and
Yeah.
feel free to shoot us emails. I speak for myself here.
Oh, yeah.
I'm more than happy to chat with anyone.
Same.
All right. So I'll stop the
I'm more than
recording.
happy.
Yeah.
I'm more than happy to chat with people. Also looking for graduate students. So if you or anybody, that is interested in doing a master's or a PhD in aquatic viruses, definitely send me an email.